Hello, and welcome to A Mental Break. I'm your host, Taylor Simpson, and today I have a very special guest on the pod. Caleb and I go way back to Common Chase days for me. We played a bunch of shows together. We were on his podcast, so we got a fellow podcaster on for the first time, which is awesome. So yeah, everybody say hello to Caleb. Caleb, what's up, man?
Hey, buddy, how's it going? We haven't just been talking for like 30 minutes before this.
They don't know that. It's fine.
Yeah. That's my favorite part of any podcast is the 20 minutes beforehand that doesn't get recorded.
Yeah.
That's where all the good stuff gets said.
It'll be on the non-Patreon account that I have.
Yeah. That's what we always say that too. We're like, it's on our Patreon. And then Craig's like, do we have a Patreon? I'm like, no.
No, we don't.
That's why it's safe to say that everything's on there.
Yeah, catch behind the scenes on Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. Someday, hopefully. I hope that there's a Patreon in both of our futures.
I hope so, man. We'll see.
Yeah,
but anyways, man, thank you so much for coming on, buddy. It's been a while since I've talked to you, and it was nice catching up before we started rolling.
Yes.
And now we'll get into the deep stuff, now. But yeah, thanks for agreeing to come on the show and gracing us with your story, man.
Dude, I appreciate you asking me. This is cool. I feel so honored to be in the first 10 episodes.
Hey, there you go, man.
This is episode 7.
You're episode 7, yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure there's like a statistic for podcasts where like most podcasts don't get by episode 6 or 7. So as long as you can get to the next guest, you're gonna be rolling.
Hey, golden. Lucky number 11, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah, man. I'm stoked to be here.
Thanks, dude. And I think the due has been paid now, I think, because you had us on your podcast, sorry.
Yes.
All those years ago, and now I'm repaying my debt.
Now you started a podcast just to repay the favor.
I did all those episodes before this one to make it seem like it.
Yeah, this is actually the last episode. It's just the same face.
This is the series finale.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, buddy. So I always like to start off the podcast by asking the guest how they're doing today, how they're feeling. Do they feel comfortable talking with me about this kind of stuff? Because I get into like a lot of heavier stuff on this pod. It's about mental health and stuff. I think it's really important to talk about and to hear other people's perspectives on their mental health, how they dealt with it throughout the years, and how they're continuing to deal with it. And so I just want to make sure that like when the guest comes on and talks about these things, that they're comfortable talking about it. I didn't like coerce them to come in and talk about this, to help my podcast or whatever. They want to be here. They want to share their story. So Caleb, are you okay to talk about stuff today?
Dude, I'm so ready to talk about whatever we need to.
Cool, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah, just my first question for you is just tell the listeners who Caleb is, man. What do you do? Who are you as a person? Anybody that might not know you or listens to this podcast later, let them know who you are, buddy.
Who doesn't know who I am, Taylor? Come on.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Dude, I don't know. Who am I? Well, I sing in a band called Lost Arts. Quick plug, check them out. And I also have my own podcast called We Should Jam Sometime. And after you're done listening to this, go listen to that.
Absolutely.
Go back and forth between my podcast and Taylor's podcast.
Please.
And I mean, like, I don't know, man, that's kind of it, I guess. That's what I do. I mean, I have a day job, but like, who cares about
that? Just pays the bills, right?
Yeah, working towards not having a regular day job.
Where are you living right now? You're in London?
I'm in London, yes.
Cool, man. What's it like being in London in COVID?
Yeah, dude, honestly, like, it kind of showed like how little I went out and did anything, because like it honestly hasn't affected my life that much.
Wow. Okay.
In terms of my social, obviously COVID fucking sucks, and
yeah.
Like to go. I would like the option to go out and do stuff and be with my friends, but like I'm not like, I also don't love, like, I never have loved like being in like a mall for too long or like a grocery store for too long. So it's kind of nice to be like, no, we have to like haul ass, because my girlfriend loves to be in malls and grocery stores for too long, and so It's like now I'm not even being a dick to be like, actually, we got to get out of here because there's like a pandemic or
We shouldn't
whatever.
be here.
Yeah. She's like, but I think I need something on the other side of the store. I'm like, I don't think so.
It can wait. It's fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. We'll order it online.
It's not that important.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, man. I think that's my intro.
Cool, buddy. So that is Caleb Thompson, everybody.
Caleb Thompson.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, hopefully someday.
All right, buddy. So let's get into the nitty gritty.
Let's do it.
So my first mental health question for you, just a baseline. What mental health struggles or illnesses do you deal with? If any.
Yeah, no, for sure. Can you imagine? I'm just like, no, dude, I'm
no, really I don't feel it.
Stoked on life. Yeah.
I just came here to talk.
Yeah. I've never been like formally diagnosed with anything. But I definitely, as I just kind of alluded to, I have like social anxiety and like mainly in like public spaces such as like malls and stuff like that. And I have like this like I don't know how to really like describe it, but I guess it's sort of like a generalized anxiety where like I kind of like overreact to specific situations where like I'm not reacting in a way that is like rational, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And so like that's one. And then something recently that actually not recently that I've known about, but recently that I've really taken the steps to try to like work on and better, because I've always just ignored it, was that I have an anger problem. And
really?
I tried to work on that. Now, like also too, I want to preface that with like anger is not like a violence issue. It's just like I react to things that really shouldn't make me angry in like a visceral way.
Sure.
And it's got me in trouble before. And I've just kind of recently been like, I'm 24. This has to stop. Like, this can't be how I live my life. And it's just in like a sense of like something stupid will happen and I'll just like, my body will be like, I'll get like angry about it. And and I'm like, dude, this can't happen anymore. So I've been trying to be very conscious of that. And it's like step one. I actually talked about it on my podcast a couple of weeks ago because I've always ignored it because I was always like too embarrassed to talk about it. Where I'm like, I'm just going to start talking about it more because I think that's like the one way to hold myself accountable for
sure
like, not letting it take over.
Yeah. And do you think that I mean, I'm not a doctor here, obviously, but do you think that maybe No, I'm not Taylor MD. Sorry, man. This is just a person to another person, man. But do you think there's some sort of connection with your generalized anxiety to that anger at all? Like, have you made that connection in your brain?
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe. I think like with the anxiety is like I've always been shy. Like as a kid, I was like really shy. Now I kind of bounce back and forth. Like,
yeah, would you say like you're more of an introvert than extrovert? I
think so. I think in like in the new settings, I'm very much going to like sit back and like watch the room. I found like the me starting my podcast has been like a hack. Like I think if you and I met at like a show, like even if I reached out to you guys, right, like, hey, we're gonna play the show, and you guys are like, absolutely, I would have had like a hard time talking to you guys at the show. But because our first meeting was like in a podcast setting, it was a lot easier for me to just be like, what's going on, or like whatever. Like that was like the first time that we met, like wasn't weird or anything, right? Like I don't remember it being awkward. I remember you guys
it was great, man. Fun. Hence why we're still friends today.
Yeah, exactly. So like, but if we met at a show first, I would have had like a really tough time.
Interesting.
Talking to you guys. Which is why I love that I started the podcast, because it was like this amazing hack I found for myself to like, I could talk to bands about them and then throw in that like I'm in a band, and then they'd be like, oh, sick, and then it just like worked out that way. But it was like most of these people that would be on the podcast, if I try to talk to them at a show, like it'd be brutal. Like I would just have like no idea what to say.
Wow.
About that. But like how that relates, to answer the question, like to anger, I don't know. I think also like not to throw my parents under the bus, but like it's also been like it's both. I just genetically, it's both sides of, is just like a thing in my family. And both my parents like are older now and starting to like mellow out, and they have both recently been like, look, like we got to figure this out, because like we've been there and didn't figure it out as early as you are now. So like, which has been great, because it's like, look, you can't live your life this way, you know. And there's been moments where like, you know, I've been angry and then like, you know, like broken something or whatever, and then it's like, oh, fuck, I broke that thing. And then like my dad or whatever has been like, yeah, man, like you can't do that. But it's not like you can't do that. It's like, you can't do that, and these are the reasons why. And like, if you don't get a hold of this now, like it just, that shit grows, and if you don't fix it, like, and it just becomes a part where like you also are responsible for yourself at the end of the day, you know. And like, I live with my girlfriend, and she's just the chillest person I've ever met in my life, which is good sometimes. But it's also like, yeah, dude, it's also like, I love her, and it's not fair to like put her through that stuff too, where it's like, you know, and she's very good at being like, it's not a big deal. Like, I'm like, what do you mean it's such a big deal? It's like, it's really not. Like, it's,
and then you get angry at the fact that she said that.
And she's just being like so reasonable, and it's always like, yeah, you're right, I'm sorry.
It's good that you have that support system, though. That's super important with going through something like this, right? Like,
yeah,
somebody not taking it to heart and realizing that it's an issue that you're dealing with.
Yeah, Julie's amazing with that too, man. Like, there's been a lot of times I'm like, what are you just like still doing? And she's like, well, I care about you, and like I want to make sure that you're okay. And like, she doesn't have like deal with any of that stuff, you know. Like, she comes, I made the joke a couple weeks ago where I was like, like, at least if we have kids, like they have a hope, because like I'm like all neurotic, and Julia's just like chill all the time,
grounded.
Yeah, so I'm like, at least they have a chance of maybe getting the like Italian side, like at least a little more like reasonable. But yeah, I mean, like it's great to be able to have somebody like that, and that helps me obviously be like, oh well, I need to pump the brakes on this a little bit.
Right. So I always like to ask the guests that are going through these things, like, was there a moment in time or a certain event that happened in your life that maybe brought on these things? Like, was there like a moment or like a time period, even like in the timeline of your life, like when you look back and you started feeling the anxiety and, you know, like the social anxiety, and then this frustration inside of you, like the anger stuff, like, is there a moment where that started to like brew, like you noticed it within you?
I don't know. Well, so like I said, like I've always been shy, like I was a shy child. The one thing I've kind of, as I look back on my teenage years, that I've been like wondering about for a while, I don't think I was ever like an unhappy person. And then I was going to high school, and I grew up in a small town, where like there wasn't a lot of kids in my high school, and you kind of just hung out who you hung out. Like, I always say, like, I hung out with the popular group in high school, but the popular group was like 30 kids. like there was only like 2 or 3 groups of people in my high. Like, there would be like, I don't even know how many there was. Like, there probably wasn't even like 100 kids in my graduating class. So like a large chunk of the kids were like the popular kids. Like, if you were to have like just a gathering, like, we're not gonna have a party, but we're gonna have like a gathering, you like had to invite like fucking 20 to 30 people so you didn't piss anybody off, which was like super annoying. But I say all that to say, like, it was a small town, and even though it's like I hung out with the cool kids, I never considered myself like a cool kid. I always felt like lower on that thing. And then I was like the music kid, and I was the only one really that liked like rock music. And then as I was getting into like Nirvana and stuff, I think I like tricked myself into thinking, oh, if I'm going to be like a great songwriter, like I have to be sad, like I have to be like really fucked up.
Wow.
And which is like, there's no reason to feel that way. And if you do, any musicians that are listening, you definitely don't do that to yourself. But I kind of wonder if I like tricked myself into like really dark days by doing that to myself, if that makes sense. Does that make any sense?
No, totally, man. Like, the brain is a fucking messed up tool.
Yeah.
Like,
And oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say, like, if you start thinking things long enough, you're gonna start to believe them, right?
Yeah.
And like, if, like you said, if you were like in that mindset of like, I have to feel this way to produce said art, then like your brain's gonna start thinking that is the way, like that is the answer. And like, you're just gonna start living that life without even wanting to be in that life.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing, man. And then like you go out kind of like looking for that shit, you know. And like something too, like just recently I've been like looking back on my life and stuff, like, man, like I actually am like really grateful for like everything I've ever had. Like my parents were always like are still together. I never had to worry about like food or like a house or anything like that. And I think that for some reason when I was like 15, 16, I thought that was like an issue, you know what I mean? Where it's like, how come my parents don't hate me and like shit like that, right? Because you're like, that's how I write a grunge song. And that's so fucked up. But like, and I
Wow.
don't think that was like an active thought, really. Like I'm maybe like hyperbolizing a little bit,
Sure.
but that's how I felt. And then I'd go to school and like I always had this attitude of like, oh, like none of these people really like me. And then like, you know, I'd have like good friends who were like, you're fucking insane, dude. Like, what are you talking about that like none of us
Mm-hmm.
like you? Like you're always invited to stuff, like you're always welcome. And I'd be like, yeah, but not really. You know? And it was just like, and I
Interesting.
think I've grown out of that a lot. But also coming to London though, like I fucking love all of my friends in London. And even when I go back home, I love everybody that I went to high school with, but like I don't talk to them a lot. And when I go
Yeah.
back and you're like kind of in those settings again, you're like, yeah, I don't know. I still kind of feel like how I felt when I was like 18 or whatever, you
Interesting.
know?
Yeah.
I think I've got away from what your question was. I don't know if I answered. Oh yeah,
That's
you're
okay,
asking me
man.
if there was a moment in my life.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think so. Going back like early, as that, I think that's like the earliest. I just kind of felt that way. And then once I got out of high school, I was really starting to take note of like, oh, what's going on in my brain, man? Like I started like reading all these books on like meditation and like Buddhism and stuff because I like really wanted to try to get a handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it's just kind of been in waves, but I noticed that if I go a while where I'm like, I think I'm good, then like something will happen that I'll just like it's like that's like the world is over for me, you know what I mean? And it'll be like not a big deal, really, you know, or something
Right.
like my car broke down like in September and like wasn't a big deal. It was kind of expensive, but it's really not a big deal. It's a fucking car, you know what I mean?
It's
Like
yeah. Yeah.
shit happens, but like that was something where I'm like, it's ever shut it down, like everything is over. Like I can't do anything
Mm.
now. You know, and it's like, dude, chill. You're gonna get your car fit. Like I got it back in like 2 days. Like it like really was not
Right.
a burden on my life. But like for those 2 days, I was like, everything sucks. Everything, it's over.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
that is a mental illness, man. That's what that is, right? Like it
Yeah,
causes you to feel things that aren't rational.
yeah, and
And
it's just
I almost wonder, Caleb, if the complex you were dealing with when you were younger of wanting to feel one way but then not achieving it and having another thing happen to you but then not wanting that either.
yeah,
I wonder if that complex growing up like that caused the frustration within you.
yeah. You know what? That point makes sense because you're right. Because then it's like you're never like achieving what you want to achieve. If
Right?
that
And then
makes sense.
any subsequent thing that happens after that frustrates you because it's an inconvenience to you because your mind is scattered.
Yeah,
It can't make up what direction it wants to go in.
and then too, like at that age, too, I mean, I have a hard enough time trying to make sense of it now, but like 10 years ago or whatever, it's hard to then try to explain what those feelings are. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're 50, like your body's changing and stuff, and you're just,
Yeah.
and then like it's already a mind fuck when you're a teenager,
Yeah.
and then yeah, you got all this other stuff go or like not even going on, but like thinking it's going on,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's like it's something like your parents ask you what's going on, and you're like, I don't fucking know, dude. Like I have no idea,
I don't know, man.
you know. And that was a struggle sometimes too, where it's like, you know, my mom would want to help, and like I kind of get that like worry part of me from my mom. So like that would be tough too, because she'd be like, what's going on? And I'd be like, I don't know. And then she'd be like, well, why don't you know? And it was just like not a good way to go about any of that. And then not
Yeah.
like for her specifically, just in general, like it's not a good scene in general, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean it's hard to be a teenager, man, and then
Absolutely.
put
And
all that shit on
obviously
top of it.
with the complex you were dealing with in your head, with that anxiety too. Was the anxiety always there when you were younger? Because like you said you were shy. Like
Yeah, and like it's always like it's always been like at the minimum like a social thing. So like or
right.
like, you know, or I have like if you and I were to have like an argument about something, right? And they like got heated and then we like split off, like I wouldn't be cool until like you and I were cool. Like and it would be all I would think of. Even like and I still do that now where I'm like I just want to solve whatever like the conflict is.
Yeah.
And in that time period where like it's not being solved, like I'll do laps of my place for
Right.
days being like, look, what I just gotta say to him is like, and look, man, like I'm and you're like just doing that thing of like,
Over analyzing.
yeah, and then you're going through like the different scenarios and stuff, and then it's usually better than whatever you predicted or whatever. But I think that's like a form of anxiety too, of just like
Sure.
when is
Yeah.
this thing gonna be over, or like what's gonna happen. But for the most part of life, it's like you don't know what's gonna happen, and that's a good thing. It gets shit,
Absolutely,
you
but
know,
it's hard for people to grip that though.
very hard, dude.
You
Like,
know.
yeah, I am, I never know. I'm always like that.
Yeah,
I
especially
don't, no
people
matter
that
how much I'm told, it's like I need to know. Why can't you just tell me what's going on?
yeah, it's tough for like people that need to have that control, right?
Yeah,
Which
and that's
sounds
what
like
it
you
is.
have to have
Yeah,
that control or that resolution.
yeah.
You know, it's
It's
tough for
like
people to.
it's like a cope. It's like coping. It's just coping. That's my new word. It's coping. It's
No,
like
it's
that
true.
you have to learn how to cope, and then move forward from
Hmm.
it. You know,
Yeah,
because and sometimes stuff doesn't work out, and like that's okay, and it sucks, but it's okay.
yeah, absolutely, man, for sure.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, we kind of touched upon this, like the next question I have for you at the beginning of this segment, I'll say. um, it's just like, have you ever been? I guess you haven't been diagnosed. You said, right?
I haven't. Yes, that's right.
Would you like to be diagnosed? Like, would you like to see somebody and get a diagnosis? Would that like maybe help you think?
I don't know, man. I was listening to that episode you did with Nicole, and like very early on, she said she knows too much about about mental health or whatever, and she said the same thing. Like, I don't want to be diagnosed because I think it would make it worse. And
Mm,
I wonder if I'm like, when she said I know too much, I was like, oh, dude, I like totally relate to this girl, because I feel the same way about stuff. Like I was going at the end of 2020. I was really going through it, and I was even like kind of having like bouts of like paranoia. And I was talking about it a little bit on the podcast, and I said this to Craig, and I was like, I'm gonna kind of sound like an asshole when I say this, but I was like, I think I'm too self-aware. And he was like, I don't, that
interesting.
makes sense. And it was just the like, I'll go through these maybe like really negative stages, and like the whole time, even like with the anger or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like when it's like at its like boiling point, there's like another part of me that's like, hey man, what are you doing? And it's like, hey, this is, you need to relax, and there's that
Yeah.
voice is there, but then
The
there's this
voice of
other voice
reason.
that's like, shut the hell up.
We're angry right now.
Yeah. And like I was doing, like, I was like a little bit paranoid, and like anytime I would do something that was like paranoid, I would be like, you're being paranoid right now, like this is exactly what that is. But I couldn't not do whatever it was that was paranoid, you know and that's kind of hard to do. I don't know if that's common amongst people or not. But that makes it almost harder for me, because it's like, it's weird to like know you're doing something wrong and then like still not feel any control to stop doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's mental health, man.
Yeah.
That you just said it in a nutshell. Like it's people that have mental health illnesses. I mean, I'm speaking from my perspective, obviously, like
Mhm.
people might affect differently, but from my perspective, it's like, yeah, like they're aware that these things are happening to them sometimes, not all the time, but most
Yeah.
of the time they're aware that these things are happening to them, but there's nothing they could do to change it. Or
Mhm.
like they might be some avenues to go down to change it, but it still keeps happening.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to manage sometimes.
Yeah.
And then when it gets to a certain point where it's severe, that's where medication comes in to like balance you out
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's too much for your own power to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, and at the end of 2020, and it was like really out of control, and I did go see my family doctor. And she like prescribed me these, like, I don't think they're not really like anti-anxiety meds, but they're like, it's to like just help everything kind of like even out, like and cope with stuff a little bit. And so I've been on them for a few months, and it was kind of funny. I was like talking to my mom on Mother's Day, and there was like a day where like I needed to call in to like renew the script, and I just didn't. And then so like 4 days went between me like the last time I took them and then when I was renewing. And so I was going to go after work that day to get them. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel the same. I wonder if these are doing anything. And then like something happened at work that day. And I just had this like my day, again, it was like nothing, but my day was like ruined. And I was like, fuck this place. Like, this is it. I'm leaving. And, I'm just in my head, right? Just like, and having this like really irrational reaction to this thing that didn't really matter. And then I get the like, medication and stuff, and then a few more days go by and I'm like kind of back on it. And I like had this moment where I was like, I don't necessarily feel that different about that situation, but I definitely was way too passionate about it. And then I like had this and then I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, hey, you can't do that. You can't just stop. And I was like, well, I didn't do it intentionally, but I was like, actually, I think it was
Yeah.
important because I did realize that they were actually helping me. That like after
Sure.
like 4 days went by where I wasn't taking them, and then I had this like total like overreaction to something where I like recently, since I've been on them, I probably wouldn't have had it like that intensely. But I was like, oh, these actually are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like they
Yeah,
actually
like that.
helping me cope a little bit better.
Yeah.
But also don't do that if you're on medication.
Yeah. I'm guessing if you were prescribed something, it's probably for a reason, and you just
Yeah. Don't
well,
just
otherwise.
be a little more responsible with renewing your prescription.
But in your case, like it helped you have that self-realization.
Yeah, I think it was good that happened, because it was like, oh, it was like I said, it was a reminder to be like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
everything is good. Like this everything is still where it's supposed to be. Like,
There's almost that like moment of clarity for you almost, right?
yeah, for sure, for
Like you're
sure.
seeing clearly, you're like, oh, yeah, I do need this.
Yeah, for sure. Because then there was like a not a fight, but like resistance, I guess, at the start where I was like, because my mom was like, you need to go see like our doctor and like talk to her and maybe that we can get you on this stuff or whatever. And there's always like resistance of like, well, if there's medication involved, like it's real, and I don't know if I want it to be real, But
yeah, it's tough.
there was a time like something had to be done at that time, and I'm glad that it was, because like I went and got like blood work done, and they're like, your blood work's awesome. I'm like, okay,
Yeah, like you're healthy, bro.
yeah. And I'm like, well, that's good, I guess. So they're like, yeah, we're gonna try this, and we'll monitor you, and we'll figure it out. But because it was weird too, like I said before, it was like it was tough to be like, oh yeah, like I'm really anxious, and I'm being a little paranoid and stuff, and it's like, oh well, it is a pandemic, and it's like, yeah, but I've been working the whole time. Like I'm not worried about any of that shit that like a lot of people are. And so it's
Absolutely.
like it's something else, because it's like I'm able to go to work every day, and like I'm not worried about my bills or shit like that. So it's like in that sense I'm fine, which is like almost another reason to be like, why is this getting worse when like my life hasn't changed? Fortunately, like I'm very grateful for that, hasn't changed a whole lot. And that was also a mind fuck. You're like,
Yeah,
I should be like stoked on life right now, and I'm just so not.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like you always have these expectations you put on yourself, right?
Mhm.
But that just goes to show you that like you can have everything together and still not be together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like
Absolutely.
that's just mental health right there.
Yeah.
Like it's just everything can seem fine.
Yeah.
And like you're trying to convince yourself that it is fine. Like
Yeah.
like you said, like you still got a job, which is fantastic in the middle
Yeah.
of COVID, and like your life hasn't changed drastically like some other people has.
Yeah.
It's not really fair to compare yourself to other people's lives though, and we're all guilty of doing it.
Yes, I'm very guilty of doing it.
But that doesn't equal happiness though.
It doesn't. And it's like there's like I don't know whose quote it is, but there's like a it's the worst thing that's happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you. And
Yeah.
I really like that quote, because it is like it's saying the same thing that you just said. Like it can't compare yourself to other people. But then it's also good for life, of like everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody's context in their Wednesday, and today when we all woke up, everybody's context is different when you walk into that day.
Absolutely.
And that's tough, man. Some people have it harder than other people, and it's hard to navigate, kind of, no matter like what your upbringing was or whatever.
Yeah, I like to think that everything is relative.
For sure.
To each person that's out there dealing with their own issues, and if they have mental health illnesses, their own like that's why I started this podcast, was to get people that have their own experience to talk about it, because everyone's is different, right? It's not black and white. Like
Yeah.
there's so many different spectrums and colors, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's, and I just want to tap into it and get into it more, and like let people see or listen to other people's perspectives. And like it's, you know, it's not just one thing or the other, you know?
And everybody's like experience is a little bit different than like what it is. I'm sure there's other people like listening or whatever that are like, yeah, I hate going to the mall too for whatever, but it's like they maybe experience it worse than I do. You know what I mean? Where like, or better than I
Or
do.
not, or not as bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So like whatever that is, right? But I think it's important to like get a little bit more in depth than uh just that's where like I hope we're heading as kind of like a society with this stuff, because like I like now that we're talking about it more, but I feel like there's always this like, okay, what's next now? But I
Hmm.
think people are slowly starting to talk about it and be a little bit more open, but I would like to see like to us talking about like, okay, like taking responsibility and like coping with stuff and like moving forward is like always the I think the next step that I think doesn't get talked about as much as I think that it should.
Yeah, for
It's
sure,
like,
man.
you have to, it's like it sucks, man, and like, but it's step one is to be like, all right, there's a problem,
Yes.
but then step two is not go back to what you were doing before. The step two is like, all right, what do we do now? Like, how do we move
Yeah,
forward now?
absolutely, man.
I don't know. I don't know.
To piggyback off your point about uh the reluctancy to go get that help,
Yes.
I think a lot of people face that. I know
Yeah.
I faced it when I
Yeah.
was on medication. I'm off medication now,
Praise the
even though I
Lord.
probably should be on medication. Don't praise the Lord just yet. But I was on medication for a long time. And yeah, I was reluctant at first. Like I'm sure most people are, because like you said, that's when it becomes real.
Mhm.
You know, when the doctor's looking at you and telling you you need to take this to balance
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
That's, it no longer becomes something in your mind that you're dealing with. That becomes in front of you, tangible,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like there's no avoiding it now. Like this is real.
Yeah.
You are dealing
Absolutely.
with this, and now you have this medication or this whatever they tell you to do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But anybody listening to this podcast, and I'm sure Caleb will back me up on this now that he's actually done it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, don't be scared to go do it.
Yeah.
Like try your best not to be reluctant, because these people are just here to help.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, even if the medication doesn't end up working, it's a step in the right direction to get you better.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing, how it was also like explained to me with like what I was taking was, it's like, this is like a stepping stone that we're gonna like even you out a bit, and then we're gonna get you like whatever is gonna help. Like if it's like meditating or like whatever, we're gonna get you doing that. And then you can hopefully ease out of using these.
Yeah, it's like a whole
Um
program, right? It's not just like, I hate to say this, but I think like it's, people expect everything to happen so quickly these days.
for sure.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like instant
Yeah.
gratification is a real problem in the world.
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
think a lot of people dealing with mental health illnesses for the first time, especially in COVID, because there's a lot of people that maybe weren't experiencing things
Yeah.
like pre-COVID that are now experiencing
Yeah.
things.
Or they're
And
finally had to face it.
or yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
they're discovering it,
Yeah.
that it's been there the whole time, and now they're facing it.
Yeah.
Right?
After Tiger King was over, they were like, fuck, I'm depressed.
Like what?
Yeah.
What is this I'm feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people just expect it to go in and get this like golden pill that's gonna fix everything. And it's just, that's not the way mental health works, man. I
No.
found out the hard way, obviously. Like I have my bouts of on and off medication and expecting it to be quickly, and then it takes years, man. And like if you don't practice it, like if you don't keep up with the prescription or keep up with the meditation or
Yeah.
whatever program they help you to get onto,
Yeah.
you're not going to get better.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're just making it worse for yourself by extending it longer than it had to be.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, man, is it's like, oh, dude, I lost my point. I had a good point. I lost it. It was something about moving forward. I don't remember what it was though. But I had a second thing to ask you. We'll just cut that first part out and we'll go right into this.
Got it.
I was gonna ask you if you do meditate. Is it like a part of your like regular like schedule or whatever?
So here's the thing, man. I actually went to a Buddhist temple.
Oh shit. Okay.
I
Where?
didn't even know there was one, but there's one in Mississauga.
Okay.
And so when I first got diagnosed with depression and anxiety and OCD, I was 13 years old, and
Okay.
I was put on 3 different medications for it
Oh my god. At 13.
at 13 years old because it came on like an onslaught,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And it was just too much for my 13-year-old brain to handle.
Yes. Of course. Yeah.
And those are like developmental years, right? So if it
Yeah.
doesn't get treated
Yeah.
right away,
Yeah.
it could have, I mean, it is seriously affecting me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, but it slowed down the progression because it might have been
Right.
way worse, right?
Right.
And so part of my treatment was actually, wait, what am I saying? Yeah, that happened to me. Sorry. The Buddhist temple didn't come because of that. The Buddhist temple
Right.
came because I was a drug addict for about 5 years.
Right.
And I went to a rehab clinic
What 5 years? Like, what? How old were you when that started?
from grade 8 to grade 12.
Jesus, grade 8. Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah, like it started off like, with weed and shrooms and like all like the base level stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then by the time I was in grade 11, I was doing like meth and
Oh my god, man.
all that crazy shit, all that
That's heavy.
explicit material that you should not
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nor do I condone doing any of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was battling with that for a long time because I was on and off the medication and I was very depressed and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you latch on devices,
Right.
to help you get through shit. So
Yeah. For sure.
I hit rock bottom in grade 12 or shortly after grade 12, the summer of grade 12, like leaving, like graduating, hit rock bottom, realized that I couldn't keep doing this to myself
Right.
and checked him into a rehab. It wasn't so much a rehab as more like a drop-in youth clinic
Okay.
that like you could stay overnight
Right.
kind of place.
Yeah.
It was, I don't think it's there anymore, but it used to be around the Square One area.
Okay.
And nobody knew I was there. I never told anybody that I went. And I went there for about 3 months
Oh wow.
for on and off. Like I would come
Okay.
home
Okay.
or I'd stay over and tell everybody that I'm at a friend's house. Like,
Right. Right.
and it was to help me lean off the drugs, right? Because I had like
Yeah.
sugar pills I had to take, and withdrawal's a fucking bitch. Like
Right.
anybody
Okay.
listening, that's a drug that was a drug addict or still is a drug addict, God forbid.
Yeah.
Withdrawal is horrible, but like you got to go through it to get better,
Of course.
And so to get to your question, the point, when I was released from the clinic, they gave me a bunch of things that I could do, like meditation or like different avenues to go down to help me with my further treatment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of them was this Buddhist temple in Mississauga
Yeah.
that worked at the time with the clinic I was with.
Okay.
So I didn't have to pay anything. Like it was all covered by OHIP and all that stuff. And I got to
Right.
go there, and they have a teacher there that brings you in. It's like a class, like it's like a group.
Right.
And it's for like, drug addicts and people dealing with stuff that they can't handle on their own kind of stuff.
Right.
And they teach you how to meditate properly.
Okay.
And it was amazing, man. Like it was such a cool experience. And like
That's awesome.
the whole goal for them is to like kind of like, I don't want to say like astral projection, but it's like kind of like leaving your body
Right.
and being one with the universe and kind of stuff, like, and just being at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like blocking everything out, like all your negative thoughts, all that kind of stuff, quieting your mind
For sure.
so that you can find clarity and answers you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did that for about, I want to say for the better part of a year. And then my course was up.
Right.
And they had to bring in new people, right?
Right.
So they they gave me techniques to use on my own, which I ended up not doing.
Right. Yeah.
And if you I'm more of like the person where I'm a hands-on guy, and if I'm not in the situation or like in a space that's not my home, like in a work space,
Right.
I'm just a horrible procrastinator.
Right.
So like I had nothing pushing me to do it, so I dropped off. But to answer your question, yeah, I did do meditation for a long time. I don't do it anymore. I really should be.
Dude, it's a tough habit to like build, man. Like, cause it's something that I want to do every day. And then I'll get into like a week where I'm like, yeah, this is like part of my life now. And then I'll have a day where I don't, and then it's over for like 2 months. And then I'm like, no, I gotta do this thing, man. It's hard, man, because it's tough to do at the start. Just fucking sit there even for like 10 minutes and just do the thing. And like I like having like guided meditations, but then to try to find a
Yeah.
good guided meditation is like then you're on your phone for like ever. Where's the right one?
Have you tried Headspace?
Yeah, I tried Headspace, but then I was having the problem where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna commit to paying to that for this. So then I
Yeah.
didn't.
There's
Then
like
I
Calm.
yeah, and the comps are kind of the same thing though. Like they all like you can do like the week and then it's or like you can have like the bare minimum or whatever, right?
Have you tried ASMR?
No, I haven't. I don't. I'm not a big ASMR guy.
It's interesting. I never brought it up on the show before, but I'm actually, and I might get flack for this, but like,
Yeah.
I'm all about
That's the first Patreon thing. Will be you doing ASMR.
behind the scenes. Taylor does ASMR.
Yeah.
But I'm actually like a big advocate for ASMR. I think it's
Right.
like,
I mean, I think it's great if you're into it. It's just
yeah,
not.
yeah. And it's not for everybody, and I'm not gonna push it on anybody if they don't, get anything from it. But like, there are like guided meditations that ASMR artists do, right?
Yeah.
And like, I find in the calmer tone of the whisper, it makes it easier for me to like soothe into it,
Right.
rather than someone talking at a normal level.
See, dude, my thing is like, I need like a British dude or like an Australian girl or
David
something.
Attenborough.
I put it on and it's just like a white person. I'm like, not you.
No.
Like, I need somebody with an accent and like a very calming voice, or like I cannot listen to it. Like I don't know
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, honestly, dude, that would probably be perfect.
I'm Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, like I can't do it. My brother's girlfriend actually showed me this app called Insight Timer. And it has like a bunch of stuff on it, man. It has like guided meditations and it has like, and it's like all free. You can like donate though. So there is like a plus membership, but like if you do somebody's like guided meditation or whatever, or there's like talks and stuff on this thing, after you listen to it, it'll give you the option to donate to them if you want.
That's cool.
But it's been pretty great because, like I said, there's like music on there. There's like different kind of guided meditation. You can put in like what you're looking for. And there's even like sleep stories and stuff on there.
That's awesome, man.
But it's a cool app for anybody that's like
cool.
Because like with Headspace, every time I've used it, it's great. I just don't know if I want to pay for
Keep going for it. It's tough, yeah.
But
I love all the free plugs we're giving out.
Yeah, exactly. Sponsor us,
please sponsor the podcast. Headspace, Calm, and
that'd be hilarious, dude.
If you're listening,
all of your ads are just like Headspace and then Calm and then
just like one after the other.
Yeah, and they're all just like, wait a second, why are we all advertising with you?
Oh man,
but that's a good one though for anybody that's looking for like a free app that has like a little bit of everything as Insight Timer.
That's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let's hop back into you, buddy. Let's hop back into I want to ask, what is your experience been like, or your perspective of dealing with your mental health, in terms of like, walk me through the symptoms, like when you get socially anxious, like try to give the audience like a deep dive into like what it's like to be in those moments.
So the one place I would feel it the most is like in a mall setting,
or like a big group of people,
or a Costco, dude. I refuse to go to Costco for like many reasons, but like one of which is there's too many people there. There's too many people there and nobody knows where they're going, and that drives me crazy, dude. When you go into a building, know where you're going. That's like my biggest pet peeve. Anyway,
now you know, listeners.
Yeah, to get to your question, what it normally is, like me and Julia will go into the mall and we'll like hit the like main stores, and then we'll just be like walking. We've maybe been there for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And we'll be like walking down the hallway of the mall, and there'll be like even like an average amount of people there, and I'll just start to feel it like in my gut and my chest of like this like shakiness. And every time I start to feel it, like I just think like fuck, because like I know soon I'm gonna have to be like, can we go? And like she's not gonna want to go. And like again, God bless Julia, like she's always like, yeah, whatever we need to do. But it's just that like it'll start like in my gut and my chest of just like, shit, like I hate this right now, and I don't really know like what it is particularly. I think I also have a problem that like I feel like people are watching me in the mall or whatever. That's
kind of like the paranoia you were talking about before.
Yeah, but like I'm not for any specific reason. Like I don't know what that is particularly, and I also think that that's like a funny thing about me, because I am a singer in a rock
You
band.
play in a rock band
Like
as
I
a singer.
literally go on stage and I'm like,
And
look
perform
at
in front of
me.
people.
Yeah. And like I can't even let Nick do a guitar solo without kissing him on the head. Like I need people to look at me. And then, and then I host this podcast. Like I do things that are like, hey, look at me.
Like you central.
Yeah. But when I'm not in those situations, I'm like, what are you looking at me for? Don't look at me. And then you're in a mall and literally everybody in that mall is like, I didn't even know you were here, dude. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just it's that feeling of like, oh man, like I don't want to be here anymore. And then I usually am just like, yeah, we got to get out of here.
Is it a claustrophobic thing maybe?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's actually like absolutely what it is. As a kid, I remember kind of always being like a little bit claustrophobic. It's not something I think about a lot, so I'm rarely in a situation where like I would be claustrophobic,
space.
But
it's
I think
not,
that now
so
that
much
you
in the
say
sense, yeah, it's not so much in the sense of the enclosed space. It's more like too many people around you. It's like a different form of claustrophobia almost.
Yeah, I think that that's probably accurate. Because again, man, like I grew up in a small town, and like the house that I grew up in is like not secluded, but like there's no like neighbors next door. Like my parents have this like acre of property, and then that's surrounded by bush. And like in Meaford, if you can leave and go, so you can go into town and still be alone.
Right.
And that's like in the city almost impossible.
There's people
Like
everywhere.
you can't do that. And that was something that's like I still don't love about London. Because like that was my whole life. It was like if I needed to get out of the house, you could literally go out and like be in nature and be like, I'm the only person alive right now. Like I'm the only one around here.
Right.
And there was no sense of like anybody seeing you.
Yeah.
Chill and be alone, please. Like my parents lived like right down the road from like a lookout point.
Okay.
In Meaford, and it's a public space where people travel to come look out over the bay, right? And I was right by my place. Like you could walk over there, and I would literally walk over there to this public space. And if I would walk and see a car, I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Like I would give it's like it's a public park. Like people can be here.
People can be here, Caleb.
It's just like it's that because it'd be like 9 out of 10 times there's nobody there, right? So then
it's that one time.
Because I used to like take my guitar over there like a notebook, right? And I'd spend hours. And then you go there and you're like, what are you doing in my space? You're like, you mean this public park, dude? Like, what are you talking about? So I think like in a city setting, like I think it definitely is a little bit of claustrophobia because when you're used to being able to escape and you can't escape, I think I think that's tough.
It sounds like you have a bit of like a spatial awareness thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like you're very in tune with your spatial awareness.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I just like talking. I like talking out these things,
Yeah, No, I love it because it's that's stuff that like I haven't. I just always am like, yeah, I don't like going to malls, but I like the like maybe it's like a claustrophobia thing or something. You're like, oh yeah, that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, like maybe you're so used to having because you said you're from Meaford and you had all that space.
Yeah,
and all you've known is space, right?
Yeah.
And so like to have that taken away from you, it's kind of like what now you're spatially aware, like you're aware of your surroundings and you're in tune with it, so like that's all you see.
Yeah,
and that's probably what triggers the anxiety in you.
Yeah, dude, I think we cracked it. I think that's what it is. Maybe I need to move further away. I need to get just that little bit more.
Oh, you need to get on a big oil rig and just go in the ocean.
Yeah. Just a house in the forest.
Yeah, go find a little island in the fucking ocean and be like, this is Caleb Island.
Yeah, dude, that would actually be sick, dude. Stay away. That would be awesome.
Oh, man. So you'd be no good in Toronto, buddy.
Dude, no way I would be good in Toronto. London is it. Because at least London, there's like maybe a pocket. And there's like forests and trees and shit around it.
Yeah.
Dude, anytime I hate having to go to Toronto, dude. Every time. Hate it.
Even to come see me?
Car where? Fucking 8 blocks away? Like, what the hell?
What is that? What?
Dude, I hate
dude.
that close, really? Yeah. It's like, yeah, I'm not a Toronto guy at all.
That's okay. It's not for everybody, man. And like, I'm in Etobicoke, so like I'm just outside of Toronto. Etobicoke, yes. As that guy would say on that. Etobicoke. Etobicoke.
Dude, that's so
But
funny.
yeah, I understand to some degree how you feel. Like I grew up in Peterborough,
Right.
which is, you know, a little bit bigger than Meaford, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah, a little bit.
it's now like technically a city.
Right.
But when I was growing up there, like 20 years ago, it wasn't a city, right?
Right.
So I get the small town thing, and like moving to Mississauga when I first moved here was a big change for me,
Yeah.
you know, and so it to some degree I can understand, obviously. And then, you know, the reason why I'm in Etobicoke is like, yes, it's still technically the city, but like it's far enough removed for me at least,
Right.
so that when I want to go to the city, I have to go in still,
Right. Right.
and then I can come out
Right. Yeah.
and be here. Like
Yes.
I don't have to travel too far to get to the city if I want to be there,
Yeah.
but I can also leave the city and be in the suburbs,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it, man. That is like that's a good thing about London too, is like it's very easy to be like just outside of it, but it's right there too. Like the city
Yeah.
is right there if you need it. And like that's what is something that'll probably like leave me here for a while, is like that is nice about London, is like it's equal parts kind of like small town, but it's obviously like it's also a big city
Yeah.
too. You get like almost the best of both worlds.
Almost best
If
of,
there's
yeah.
less people, it would be the best of both worlds.
Oh man, that's funny. All right, buddy. So I like to call this next segment the real reels.
Oh no.
I started doing this 2 episodes ago, and I was like, I guess this is a thing now that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I gotta
You need
roll
to
with
start
it.
getting stings for them, so you can
Yes,
like, hit the
hit the thing. The real
yeah.
reels.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, that'd be sick.
Yeah. Up next, the real reels.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. You have to do it.
I'll work on it. I'll work on it.
Yeah.
So Caleb, what are some of the hardest moments that you've had to deal with in terms of your mental health? Like, what are the, like, when you think back and all the times that you've had an episode or like a frustration, like an anger outspurt?
Yes.
What comes to mind as like one of the hardest moments, or like a couple of hardest moments for you
Yeah.
in dealing with it?
Well, you're in luck, Taylor, because the hardest probably time of my life was the very end of 2020. So it's very fresh.
Oh wow, okay. So I'm like right at the cusp.
Yeah. So I guess it actually kind of starts. I have to go back to like August. I was working for a lawn care company, and one day that somebody stole the truck. I was like at a yard. I was in the back of a yard.
Whoa.
Somebody like stole the truck, which was fucked.
That is fucked.
So, and it's actually kind of like the cliff notes of that story. It was kind of a weird day actually, because normally I had one of the newer trucks, so I had like Bluetooth capabilities and stuff. So like I would always have like a podcast on, or like my own music. But that morning, for whatever reason, I had the radio on, and they were talking about how somebody had stolen a City of London truck the day before. And I was like, oh man, I was like, I really should be more careful with these trucks, because like I would leave my like car keys and like my wallet in the truck all day. And like they'd have to be left running for like the machines and shit. And then
Right.
they were unlocked. So I was like, at the very least, I should be taking my wallet and keys with me in case somebody like rummages through the vehicle or whatever. Anyway, fast forward like 6 hours. So that morning I was like, I'm keeping my car keys and my wallet on me.
Wow.
6 hours later, somebody fucking hops in the truck, steals it, and like I had my phone, my keys, and my wallet on me.
Whew,
Which
you
was
dodged a bullet there, man.
so lucky.
Whoa.
And it's also too, like I always say, like if this is my one like carjacking story, super glad it was like a work vehicle. Like it wasn't my vehicle.
And not your actual
Yeah.
vehicle.
And like I didn't really, like that guy stole like Bluetooth earbuds that I had that were like cheap anyway. And like that sucks, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm glad I had my phone and my wallet and my keys. Like
yeah.
And I was kind of in shock. Like it was kind of a wild situation, right? And some time kind of passed, and there was no like follow-up from my work of like, hey, that was fucked, like, are you okay?
Yeah.
I literally showed up the next day and they're like, hey, we got the truck back, like fucking you can take it. And I was like, can I not take it? And they're like, no, you can take it. And like they didn't like clean it or anything, and that was like a big problem for me.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and there was no follow-up of like, are you okay? And so like it was just, I was in like a weird funk kind of after that for a few weeks. And then actually a few weeks after that, that was when my car broke down. And so that was just like, again, like an add-on where I was just like, fucking of course, like everything sucks, you know? And it was this slow decline since that truck got stolen. And then I was living in this apartment, which you and I talked about before we started, that I moved. And the reason for that move was I lived just outside of downtown, and it was like a decent apartment, and it was in like a good neighborhood, and there was not really any undesirable people around. But as COVID happened and London doesn't fucking deal with the huge homeless problem that we have in the city, not to mention like the drug issues and stuff, right? So what they do is they just move those people around, which is fucking horrible. Like they just push them to other parts of the city. So during COVID, it was obviously getting worse. And then there was lots of people just hanging around the apartment building. And my apartment was at the back, and I could see over the parking lot. So I was constantly checking my car. And then every time it would get a little bit better, where I was like, I'm coming up on the upswing, it's all good, something would happen. Like somebody would get their car window like smashed in the parking lot, and I would see the glass the next day, and I would and like I felt bad because Julie would like, she would see it, and then like I could see her just be like, uh-oh, because then I was just like, fucking see, you know. And like it was getting like, I kept nothing in my car. Like I wouldn't even leave like windshield washer fluid in there. Like I was like, there's nothing in my car,
nothing in
like,
there. Yeah,
I would my dad bought me a roadside kit for it. I would take that up to my apartment and bring it down every morning, which is like insane. Like I was like, there's no reason anybody's breaking my window. And it was just getting like progressively like worse, man. And then like I couldn't like sleep because I was like up all the time checking the window. It got to the point where like for like a month, Julie and I slept in the futon in the living room, so I could like leave the window open so I could like maybe hear if like something was going on, right? So that was like where the paranoia was like coming from. And then but then what would also happen, man, is like this shit would still happen, which was not helping. Like I woke up one day, actually the day we finally got I was like, we're fucking moving, and we like got the lease for this place. I woke up to like hearing recycling, which is like normal, and sometimes like people would come and take the cans and stuff and whatever, no problem. And I look out the window, and there was like a dude like tweaking, like rummaging through the recycling, and I'm like, oh, like fuck. And I keep looking out, and then I look out, and this is like 7:30 in the morning, man, and he's like going through somebody's car at like 7:30 in the morning. Whoa. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I like text my building manager. He's like, well, call the police. And so I like called the police, and they actually came like quickly. Fucking like my building manager went in and was like, you need to fucking leave, like we called the police. And the guy just didn't go. He just like kept going through this lady's car. And the police like came and got him and everything. But I was like, that was the problem, was like I was paranoid, but then like stuff was still happening. Although mind you, not to me, like nothing was happening with my car
around you,
but it was just like I was like, holy fuck. And even like my mom would be like, all right, Caleb, so like what, somebody breaks your car window, like what do you, like you get it fixed, like it's not the end of the world, you know? And I was like, but it shouldn't happen.
But it shouldn't happen.
You know? And it was, and you know, and then I would talk to Craig about that stuff, and he's like, you'll be fine, man. And then and like Craig's lived in London his whole life, right? So he's like, it's just a part of,
he's used to it.
I've had my car broken into 100, you know what I mean? It's just like, and I'm not used to that, dude. Like I come from a place where people fucking leave their doors
unlocked. Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that's not how I do. Like this state that I leave my car in London versus how I would leave it in Meaford is like vastly different. Like
I can imagine.
If in London you'd be like, nobody owns this car, there's nothing in here. And then if I go to Meaford, there's like CDs everywhere. You know, you're like, I'll leave it running, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
But there was this decline where like, and dude, I felt so bad for my parents too, because I was calling them every day. And like if I couldn't get a parking spot like close enough where I could like see my car from our room, like I'd like lose it. Like I'd look out the window, and if somebody would leave that night that was in a parking spot, I would like go out and I'd move my car. And like, and the whole time doing it, I'd be like, this is fucking insane. Like I would literally be like, or like, dude, I would take my car and just drive it around the block. So like if somebody saw me, they didn't see me just move like 10 spaces over. Like I would take it for a quick rip. And then hope nobody came in that time, and then yeah. So it was just like, it was controlling my life. And that was
Wow,
when
man.
my mom was like, look, like you gotta come and like speak to the doctor and stuff, because like and even she's like, man, like Lost Arts was supposed to play this like live stream show at Palisade, and I like couldn't focus, and my mom was like, you have to cancel the show. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? Like, I can't cancel the show. Like, we've been bitching for a year about not playing, and we finally get to play. Like, are you crazy? And she's like, yeah, like you can't do this show. And I kept being like, no, like there's no way I'm canceling it. But it was just this added stress every time, like
Yep.
the show get close. And then like thankfully I finally talked to the guys, and I was like, God, man, like I haven't been in a good place. And like anytime they would, like we would do a band call, and I'd just be like, hey, what's up? Like you'd have no idea, right? So that was like, I told them, and they were like, oh man, yeah, like we had no idea, like no worries. And then like thankfully the COVID restrictions are
Thankfully.
like, yeah,